Hello, everybody. Don't mind my technical difficulties. Welcome to this awesome interview series that I'm going to be doing about going from where you are to where you want to be. And I know that that is a lot of us right now, where we find ourselves in situations and energies, whether it's with our job or our relationship or our finances or whatever it may be, where we're just not satisfied, where we feel like there's more or there's something else we could be doing, or we feel that pressure, that urge to grow and transform and evolve. But the how to get to where you want to be is what everybody always wants to know, and how to is one of my specialties. I have a very large arsenal of modalities and things that I have done. I have experimented in so many things, and that makes me somebody that's able to help just about anybody. But today is not about me. Today is going to be about one of my former students, and she took a journey with me in 2017. And this was a very unique journey, because for those of you who are new to following me, what you don't know is I went through about a year and a half of working with babies in the womb. And I would work on their spine, because it's one of the very first things that develops when the baby's developing its skeletal system. But in the spine, and each vertebrae holds wisdom. It holds the epigenetic information from all of our lineage. And a lot of times, and I was one of those people, one of those teachers that was like, oh, it's only 7 years back. It's not. It's literally every person in your lineage is carried forward into whatever incarnation, right? Which we all really know it's all happening simultaneously, but for a linear perspective, it's carried forth into this now moment. And that's all stored in the vertebrae. And as they develop, that information is collected through epigenetics, and it's stored in the bones. And that is why when we go through huge healings, when we go through huge upgrades, when we feel the energies of the planet, when that light and that activation is hitting us we're clearing at the bone level, we're getting down to clearing epigenetically, we're clearing our lineage, we're clearing the root. And that's why we'll have tremendous shivers, or we'll have cold and flu-like symptoms to where our bones hurt, right? Our bones are aching, or we're cold, or we have pains in them. And so our bodies are made up of bazillion light codes. So anyway, in 2017, even in 2016, 2017, a little into 2018, I did a lot of work on babies in the womb. And this particular student is Angela Turnpin. And we started with working on clearing in the baby, but she decided to take a journey of really healing some very deep trauma that's very relevant in today's world with what's happening, okay? What's everybody's seeing out there. And so she went on a deep journey of healing those traumas with me, and really also not just that, but also stepping into her divine life path. And that is something that takes time. It's a journey. And so she was unlearning all that she had learned and relearning who she is at her sovereign divine level. And so without further ado, I would like to bring Angela on and let you guys meet her. Welcome, Angela Turnpin. She is a breakthrough coach. Woo woo. Oh, wait, you're muted. There we go. Now you can talk. Maybe. No. Unmute. There we go.
I think that I unmuted as you unmuted me, and so it muted me.
Most likely. That sounds about right.
That's so funny. Hello.
Well, thank you for being here. And let's just start with, listen, you guys, this kind of took us a direction that I had a feeling it was going to go into, and we'll get to that. So we have a lot to cover. But I really want to just give a brief intro of where you were when you came to me in 2017, and what kind of things that you were experiencing and needing to heal.
Sure. So So actually, I kind of want to take it just a little, I think almost a year back, actually, I think when I first came in contact with you. And it was when I was part of this Facebook group, Namaste. And you're like, I have a group that, and I don't know if other people are part of the Facebook group, but it's just not what you think that it is. And you're like, I have a group that I promise it is what it is. And so I jumped in on that. And then I started following you. And then we had very similar stories as far as my stepdad goes and your father goes. And I was really grieving my stepfather. And I didn't know that. And then I think I reached out to you to do like a card reading because you had it on special. And my question was whether or not I should be moving to Texas. And then I kid you not, 6 months later, I was pregnant and reached out to you and was like, I'm having these crazy dreams about dying. What am I supposed to do? And then you gave me some things to journal on because I was an advocate about journaling already at that point. And I journaled about it and then reached back out to you and you're like, look, I can help you. I want to help you. And you have to decide if this is right for you.
Yeah.
And I was and I don't know what it was, but I was like, yes, this is right for me. I have no idea what's going to happen, but this is absolutely right for me. And then we started working one-to-one. And when I was working with you one-to-one and looking back at it now, I was very hurt, wounded little girl that was so timid and so ashamed of what was going on that I didn't know if I was ever really going to be where I'm at today. I was so
You couldn't see it.
lost.
You couldn't
No,
see it.
no, not at all. Not at all. And even within the few weeks of us working together, I left my baby daddy. And then all of a sudden, everything started pouring out. I mean, I'm just pouring out. And so I started kind of learning how to stop controlling things. I learned that just about everything that was coming into my life was a trigger, was a flashback, was a memory. And I really started to unlearn wounds that were so deep. I don't even know how you were able to get some of those walls down and those barriers down, because at that point, I was all about hurting everybody else before they hurt me. And I always had a chip on my shoulder, and I was avoiding and escaping any type of pain and not even just pain, any type of emotion. It wasn't just shame or guilt or whatever. It was anything. I had such a hard time even feeling happy. And so I had to really unlearn all of that stuff. And all of it came from childhood trauma that honestly, I hadn't even remembered up until about a year before we started working together. I had completely suppressed it and then had some flashback and told somebody and thought I was going to be fine. I totally thought I was going to be fine.
Because
And
you
I
told somebody,
wasn't.
so like you had the
Yeah.
awareness and you're like, oh, okay. And you share it and you're like, oh, I'm good. I'm just going to move on. Like,
Right.
and that's a normal human response, by the way, because
Mhm.
we've been so conditioned as a society to not feel anything, right? To numb ourselves out or not to, to completely avoid, distract, go the other way. So do you want to share a little bit about what that flashback trauma was?
Sure. So at the time, even when I was working with you I thought it was from the ages of 4 to 7, but it turns out that it was really about 3 to 8 years old that I was being molested by a family member. And it had really came into my life, and it was really hard to believe because I could remember everything up until the moment that it took place. And then it was completely black.
Yeah.
And so I had a hard time telling anybody that that's really what was going on, because there wasn't any tangible evidence, right? There wasn't, I couldn't guarantee, I couldn't give you the details, I couldn't do that, but I could tell you that it happened. And I knew afterwards because I felt different. My body was always in pain. And so that's where the bulk of it came from.
Right.
And then I lived in it forever. When I was 17 years old, I quote unquote lost my virginity to a guy that was 37 at the time, and then was raped at 19 and raped again at 26. So I had just, and that's not even including the blackout drunk nights, right, where I was not consensual. And I mean, that's my responsibility, because I'm sure they were drunk too, and I don't want to be like, well, that's shame on them. Really,
It's a two-part ownership.
Yeah, it's my responsibility, and that's not including those times. So I completely lived in shame like my whole life, and I had no idea. I just had no idea. I was so clueless.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, I'm feeling called to bring this in is, you know, as someone who has been raped several times, I can tell you that when you've had childhood molestation, or you've had something happen to you as a child, even if you don't remember it, you are more susceptible to rape. You are more susceptible to having your body being abused, because it's something subconsciously, or actually really unconsciously, that you believe is just the way things are. It's just natural or whatever. And once you have the awareness of what happened to you, things shift, and the shame and guilt can almost become so heavy that you believe that your worth is completely tied to being used.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so there's a really important reason why this, you know, Angela was, I really went through my student list and was like, who am I drawn to? And I was really surprised, because Angela's not the only one that's was a few years ago. I have one that's even further back, but they're really stepping into their mission right now. And if we look at what's happening in the world, the pedophilia rings that are being broadcast, I mean, you have to live under a rock not to know and hear about this stuff. And this is not really a discussion about the dark and the evil and the pedophile that's happening. This shit's been happening for centuries, you guys. It's just we're becoming more aware of it. The brighter the light, the more dirt you see. Okay. So understanding that, but two, it's also happening because I've mentioned on many lives how there's this underbelly of trauma that's rising up right now that needs to be transmuted. But when that rises up, so this is collectively, mind you, centuries of pedophile rings and things like that, and other stuff that's happening. When it's rising up, it's also rising up in us. And so you're going to see things that are going to trigger you. And if any of this triggers you, then there is a wound there, whether it was somebody crossing your boundaries, a repressed molestation or sexual abuse, or when you were the perpetrator in another life. This may be your life of rectifying your perpetrator energy when you were that person in a former life. And so her being on right now is no coincidence. This is something that she needed to shine her light and talk about healing this and what she does, because she is a breakthrough coach. But breakthrough to me is can be many things. It can be breaking through a business block. It can be breaking through trauma, because trauma works like a lead wall.
Yeah.
And it's filled with shame, with guilt, with anger and resentment. So because we're going to go in this direction, I want you to share with people your journey of how you've gotten to where you are now, where you are actually capable and beyond able to hold space for women going through something similar, or just having trauma in general. It doesn't have to be sexually related, but so yes, you worked with me, and we worked for what? We worked for quite a while, actually.
I think for almost 3-4 months.
I think it was actually more than 4 months, but
I worked with you one-to-one for like almost 16 weeks or something like that. And then did your heal course. And then I had the baby, I think. And then I did Boxer with you while I was postpartum, and we did energy work then. And then we did like some one-offs, like just some one-off one-to-ones. And then I just recently did the Unity, or just recently finished Unity within like the last month, I think. So
side note, what did you think of Unity?
I think that it was one of the best experiences I've ever had. And I think that it came at a moment where it was perfect for me, because I know how to do the work. I know how to sit with myself. I know how to
That's an advanced
allow
course.
everything. Yeah, absolutely. If you're not ready to do the work, don't do it.
Don't join Unity if you're not ready to do the work. So her and I took her. So you guys know that I will bring in Gene Keys and human design. So we really followed her blueprint, and we really followed her huge obstacles, and we dug and found her triggers. So she did the work, you guys. She did the work, and she was very diligent, and she did her homework, and she showed up for herself in a big way. So we did that, and we've done the energy work. And it's funny, I told you guys that I worked on Aubrey. She remembers me.
Mm-hmm.
She remembers me from working on her in the womb. So what did you do after that? So you had the baby, and how did you progress yourself? Because you took it beyond that. You took it into your hands, and you just started creating a business. So what other things did you go and get certified in?
So I did do regular therapy when I was pregnant. I also did timeline therapy with Chantel, and that was great. But when I was postpartum, I was really just journaling a lot, and I was working through my gene keys. I think I've gone through my gene keys at least a dozen times. But really what happened is that and I don't want to paint him in this bad light. That's not what this is. But my baby daddy was consistently coming at me in such a way that my only option was to heal, because I was not going to continue to allow the abuse that I allowed when I was pregnant.
Right.
And I allowed it when I was pregnant because I was going through all this healing, and I couldn't tell what were my hormones and what were triggers, right?
So that's a legit thing.
So I just stayed quiet, but also at the same time, I was so desperate for him to see my worth, and so desperate for him to love me. And then I got a letter from his lawyer that said that my mental health was in question. And I thought it was crazy, because 4 or 5 years ago from that point, that would have been a legitimate statement. And so here I am postpartum, raising our child completely by myself, and he's questioning my mental health. And he's saying, and he keeps telling, I'm going to take her from you. I'm going to take her from you. And when you're a first time mom, you think that people can just take your baby.
Right. Like, it's a real fear.
It really is. And so I remember holding on to her. She's 3 months old, in the hall, just crying and crying and crying. I'm not going to let him take you. You can love him all you want, but I'm your mom. I'm here to protect you. And just crying and sobbing. And then all of a sudden, 20 minutes later, I got up and I was like, it's fucking time. I'm so done with this. And so I had completely stepped into my power. And then anything and everything that he brought to my attention, I was just like, thank you, I'll heal that. Yep. Thank you, I'll heal that. Thank you, I'll heal that. And so really, really, as much as I want to be mad at him sometimes, he is very much
he's the biggest catalyst for your transformation.
Yeah, absolutely. He totally, in the words of Selena Gomez, he totally set fire to my purpose. So I was just like, dude,
I love it. I freaking love that. It's so true, because now, nobody likes being in the trigger. No one likes feeling the pain. No one likes pacing up and down or laying on your closet floor, which is usually where I am, crying and sobbing. But you have to feel it to heal it. Like, you have to allow yourself to completely go into it. But again, when I'm triggered, I'm the same way now, where I'm like, this doesn't feel good, but yes, I'm so excited for the space I'm about to make. Like, this is awesome. And it's like, it gives you it almost lessens the blow of what you're about to go through, because you see it's happening for a good reason. And this is the beauty of healing. Like, some people are like, I don't want to do shadow work, and I don't want to touch on that, and I don't want to touch this with a 10-foot pole. It's like, just do it. Like, dive into it. Otherwise, you manifest health problems, and you have all of these issues. But you had, I mean, you made some huge shifts during our thing, because you quit. You didn't just leave him, but you quit your job, right? You were going to sell your home, and you kept it. Like, she had all the things stacked against her. Like, she's like, she didn't know where the money was coming from. She didn't know where anything was going to come from. And she chose herself, and she took that risk, and she stepped out on her own, and it's paid off. Like, I'm always watching her, and I know that she's doing really good things. One of the things that kept coming through for you was to write a book or a journal. Like, there was something you needed to put down, and you did it. Like, I told you that, and you like, the next thing you know, you're like, okay, here it is. I was like, what? That was fast.
I've always been that way. Even when I was working for corporate, you don't need to give me direction. You just need to give me some idea, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go fly this way, and I'm gonna do what I think I'm supposed to do, and then I'm gonna deliver it, because that's it. And especially when we were working together, because I wasn't clear enough in my channel, and I didn't trust myself enough. When you said things to me, I knew that it was being delivered from source, right? Like, I knew it was being channeled, and I needed to hear it, because there was no way I was going to do it if I thought of the idea. So.
Right. And that's the thing, is this is the biggest thing that you get from working with, I would hope any private mentor, honestly. I would hope is their goal, is for you to learn to trust yourself and your intuition, because she was going through an awakening through her pregnancy. That's why she was having the flashbacks. That's why it's funny. You were talking about something about how I was able to get through the blocks. And I heard Aubrey helped.
I'm not surprised.
Because that's the thing, when you're pregnant, it's not just your aura. Now, their aura is developing inside of yours, which makes yours bigger. And so they are amplifying these energies as they're epigenetically pulling that ancestral line in. It's almost like the perfect time to do this deep work. Right? Because I was able to clear some generational stuff within Aubrey before she was born, right? Anything that she wasn't designed to go through in this life. It's not that I'm changing her life plan, but because of what she was kind of pulling up into her, that stuff was all very relevant. It was all coming up, and it was busting you wide open. And, one of my besties, Ashley Pfeffer, it took her 3 kids to wake her up. So kids generally can and will wake you up. And bring that in. So she's the one that really was the gift for this.
Yeah, she definitely, without her, I'm afraid I wouldn't be where I'm at right now. I still think that I would be at my corporate job. Not that my corporate job is like anywhere available to be working at, as far as I understand, but I would still be miserable going to my job and not understanding what's wrong with me, because when you're not awake, you think that all the time. What's wrong with me? I'm supposed to be happy. I'm making $50,000 a year.
Even when you are awake, you have that.
Well, yeah, of course. But I mean, that's like your thought, right? What's wrong with me? There's something wrong with me. There has to be something wrong with me, because I'm not fulfilled, because I'm have everything that everybody says that you're supposed to have, and I still feel like crap. And so
it's not external things, man. No. It's that internal drive that just kicked on for you. I remember you were so bored at work. You were so bored. And I was like, work on your business. Like, totally work on your business while you're getting paid for somebody else. And you did. You totally did.
Yep. I was in my little cubicle. We had like barn doors. I sat in my office, and probably I had regular work for like maybe 2 or 3 hours a day. And I just sat in there quietly typing away and doing whatever I could without, being loud or getting in trouble or whatever. And I was just so bored. And because the thing is and I know that this is instilled in me by my parents, which I really appreciate. I want to work. It's not like I want to do something and get, or I don't want to do something and just get handed this paycheck or whatever. I like to work. It's actually in my human design that I'm a generator, right? So I love to work. That's who I am. And so for me to sit in an office for 8 hours and maybe really work for only 3 hours a day is not, that's not what I'm designed to do at all.
Yeah.
And I didn't understand that at that point.
Right.
But I mean, I had always worked. And even now is a little bit different because I have to work around Aubrey's schedule. But I mean, when it's time to work, I'm going full force into that work. Things have been a little bit different because, and now I understand what it was and why it was happening. When I was taking the Unity, my work had really slowed down. I don't want to say my creative energy, but all of that kind of had slowed down. And I was thinking, what the hell is going on? Like, why? I don't want to work. I don't want to do these things. And I started to realize it's because I'm integrating, but also it was because I was taking the easy way, right? And not that working with women that are stuck and need to break through and have all these things that they're dealing with, but it wasn't what I was truly passionate about. And I knew that I was going to attract women that had had some type of sexual abuse or some type of trauma, and I was going to help them heal that, but I wasn't openly speaking about it. I wasn't openly saying, hey, this is what's going on. And it's because I shifted so that I could start making it work based on somebody else's blueprint. And not that their blueprint is wrong, that's just not who I am, right? So I have to do everything my way, and it has to be my way because that's who I am. And so I started to go, all right, this is what we're going to do. And then when I was taking Unity and then dealing with another trigger from my baby daddy, it went, this is what you're supposed to be doing. You need to start speaking up. I'm sorry, that's my mom. You need to start speaking up. You need to start doing what you were supposed to be doing. And I was like, oh, I do remember even 2 years ago telling my friend at the time that I am going to be the sought after woman of healing women that have had sexual trauma. I remember saying that. I was like, that's what I'm going to be known for. People are going to seek after me all over the world, and this is what's going to happen. And then like a year later, I was like, I don't want to do that. And now all of a sudden I was like, what the hell was I doing?
Well, we go through these phases because, we go through these phases where we have to evolve ourselves, right? And so you took a little side journey, but it wasn't really a side journey. It was, you have to be prepared to talk about something like that. You have to not just, it's one thing to heal it. It's another to integrate it. Right. And the integration part for you, which is something that I would like for you to talk about for a little bit, is you really were out of touch with your inner child. Like completely. You and I have a very strong work ethic. I'm not, I'm a manifester, so I work differently, but I have willpower like nobody's business. I could run circles around most people, right? And it's just the way that I was used to operating. And I had to do the same thing. I had to get in touch with my inner child and learn to play again and to be stupid and silly or whatever you want to call it. And just get in touch with that, because that is the creative energy. That is the bridge between the unconscious and the superconscious. It is the peacemaker. It is the gray area. And so talk about that for a little bit, because you were really out of touch with your inner child and you needed that time of going, because Unity for you was pulling some roots and really reconnecting you back. And that was a very, I call it the rebirthing experience. And that's exactly what it did. But you have to reconnect to those parts. So talk about the inner child work for a minute.
Yeah, so connecting with my inner child was one of the hardest things that I've ever done. And it's because, not only did I have this trauma as a child, but in my house, and my mom was just a product of her environment, and not that she did anything wrong, she just didn't know better. In my house, you weren't allowed to have emotions. You weren't allowed to talk back. You weren't allowed to have your own thoughts. So here I am as this little girl that is, I don't want to say different, because I was unique. I was very strong-willed. And so I would, you tell me no, we're going all the way in. And so all of a sudden
Got a little fire in you.
Yeah. So I was punished as a kid, it was, and things were different then, right? Like, parents really did beat their kids. And I'm not like, I wasn't beat like abuse, like some of these children that we see, but I was beat. I was trying to get the strong-willed beat out of me, right? That's essentially what it was.
Right.
I had completely disconnected from that child so that I could be loved. And I continued to do it to myself, even as I was going through the healing process. And even when you would tell me you need to connect with your child self, and I would do it like just a little bit. And then even as Aubrey was born, it was very difficult for me to bond with her at first. And that's actually a response. It's actually a symptom of complex PTSD. It's to not be able to bond with your child immediately, or to struggle with that. And I didn't know that at the time. And so I think that I had rejected her almost, because she was innocent. She needed me. She trusted me. And so I was just like, I can't believe that.
Because
that
you had rejected that part of yourself. So of course you're not going to accept it in a child or anyone else for that matter.
Oh yeah. So, and then within the last year, especially when we were doing Unity, I was just like, all right, I'm so tired of not feeling like I can't play. I can't do silly things. I can't dance around the house or whatever, which is like one of my favorite things to do. And I was just like, it's time. And of course I journal. Everything is journaled. I don't, not that I don't speak aloud or anything like that, but everything is journaled because I channel better that way. Everything is flow through. Yeah. So I would just be like, all right, it's time for you to come forward. It's time for you to tell me what it is that you need, what I need to do for you. Please start telling me what I can do so that you're being seen and heard, because whatever's going on, it's not working. And so all of a sudden these things would just come forward. And I mean, we're just talking about so much stuff. And I'm just like in tears, like every other day. I've suppressed this. I can't believe this. And so what I really started to do is start to do things that I always wanted to do. Go sit outside and look at the sunset. Go look at the stars. Go watch a movie with Aubrey. Go play with her. It's okay to go play. Go have dance parties. Go do these things. And even now, and it's so funny because we were just at my sister-in-law's house. I was dancing in the car the whole way, and she was just staring at me. And I was like, it's okay to have fun. Mm-hmm. And so I was just like, oh man, the tables have turned.
Right. Because it really does. It gets your creative juices going when you allow yourself to be in that energy. But you nailed it when you said, like, your disconnect. Because when you disconnect from that part of yourself, all that is you don't want to see, hear. It's not, that part of you is not safe. That's self-hate. You don't love that part of yourself. And so when you aren't listening to that inner guidance that's telling you to reconnect with that part of yourself, it'll start to show up outside of you. And so you manifest relationships, you experience it with your own children, because our triggers, our children and our significant others and our family members are always going to be our biggest trigger points. And that's the way we designed it. We designed it that way. This is a law of attraction based universe. It's a mirrored reality. And so the best way to learn what we like and what we don't like is to have it mirrored back to us, and you nailed it with that. And so I just remember thinking, God, she needs to let loose. Like she just needed to have some fun. But again, if you grow up in a home, and like you said, this is not about blaming our parents. Literally, they are a byproduct of the generation that they were raised by. And this is why the cycle repeats until you make the conscious choice to change your behavior. It's in the choice of changing your behavior that you break these cycles. So they didn't know any better. Back then, it was okay to use the belt and it was okay to do these things. They didn't see the repercussions of it and of how damaging it is. And, now we know so much better how to empower our children through choice. Right. And just to raise them to be empowered so that we can stop this cycle. But, it's so awesome. So let's talk about the sexual healing for a minute, because I want people to see that it is absolutely possible to be where you are, well-adjusted, successful, a single mother, right? We should never have single mothers, but that's another topic, right? You're doing it against what you should be. You're doing it, on your own, and you're forging forward. And you had some serious abuse that happened to you. So what are some tangible things that you could give a woman who maybe through these triggered events that we're seeing on TV, right, or on social media, when someone's feeling triggered by something they see, and maybe they start having repressed memories or, whatever. We know how I work, but I want people to hear from you. So if someone's triggered by something they're seeing from like the pedophilia and stuff like that, or they can go take it a step further, they're having repressed flashbacks starting to show up and they think they may have had some type of sexual trauma but can't remember it. And there's a reason why you can't remember it, you guys. Your amygdala stops recording when you leave your body. When you disassociate, your amygdala and your brain stops recording. So what are some tangible tips that you could give people to just kind of get their feet wet before reaching out to a practitioner like you?
Sure. So the number one thing that you can do for yourself, even if you're aware that you have abuse, or you may not be aware, and this is for anybody, it doesn't just have to be survivors, is to have a safe and sacred place to go to. It doesn't have to be physical. If you feel like you don't have one that you can create in your physical home, then you can make it mentally. Now, it's easier to make this physically, but if you have to do it mentally, then you go there. Maybe it's a tranquil place, maybe it's by the beach, maybe, whatever that looks like, it's completely up to you. But in that place, you're allowed to feel whatever it is that you feel. You're allowed to have the triggers, but you're also not allowed to hurt yourself in that sacred space, right? And I know that as survivors and as anxiety and these flashbacks ramp up, you want the pain to stop, right? You want it to go away. You don't want to deal with it. And it's almost like pouring out of you, and you just want it to stop. And of course, we automatically go to, if we want it to stop, that means that, we're going to take our life, or we're going to hurt ourselves. In that place that you create that is safe, you have to make a contract with yourself that you will not hurt yourself in that sacred space. So anytime that you're triggered, whether it's from Facebook, from the news, from family member, repressed memories, immediately go to that spot and just sit there and just let it pour out. And
see your pain, your own pain.
Yes, and you have to. And I know that a lot of us want to believe that if I don't deal with it, it's never going to bother me. That is the biggest load of BS I've ever heard, and that I have ever made up in my life, because all it ever does is intensify. So if you don't want to feel this intense pain of the flashbacks, the second you have it, you've got to be with it, right? You have to be willing to see it. Otherwise, it does get worse, and you want to be aware of that, right? If your goal is to avoid the pain, then just go head on as soon as you can, so that the pain doesn't intensify.
Because literally, she's right, you guys. If you literally only have to feel it to heal it. If you allow yourself to completely feel it, it will not be as long or as intense as if you have resistance to it.
Right. Exactly. Let's see. And another third thing is to have someone in your corner that knows what is going on. and they are able to hold space for you. They're able to be there for you. They help you. They'll be there no matter what. You need at least one person. And I say this because I spent a majority of, the last several years isolating myself. And when I was going through these flashbacks and these triggers and everything, I had Johanna, but I was so afraid of being vulnerable with people that I didn't know I could even reach out to people. And so you have to be able to just have one person you feel safe to be vulnerable with, because they will change the course of how long things last, of your feeling of not being safe. They actually really change that. And that really leads me to another point. Anybody that has suffered any type of trauma, but especially sexual trauma, your ultimate goal, your ultimate need is to feel safe. So you do whatever it takes to always feel safe. And
Yes.
for most of us, that does not look good at all. But when you start to get a hold of that, you start to realize that, you start to realize that that's why your sacred space, your safe space is vital to your healing, because
Right.
you really just want to be safe. And you will continue to bring that up in your life until you feel safe in your own body. And I know that because I just did a bunch of healing on it. And I was just like, oh my God, I can't believe that I didn't see this before. But, everything comes in layers. And when we're ready.
Oh, yep. You evolve.
So, be aware that your main goal is to be safe. So a lot of the things that you do, a lot of the patterns that you carry is to seek safety. And really the only place that, until you're like really healed, I could say, the only place that you can feel safe is within yourself.
Yep.
And then when you start to feel safe within yourself, then you can start to feel safe with other people completely and wholly.
So let me back up and talk about this for a second. What a safe person is, and what it means to have a safe person. So this is why a lot of people hire mentors like me. And I was just talking to the last guest. We had a session, Tammy, and we were reinforcing how to create that safety for her, because this is what people like me and Angela do when we're talking about a safe person. We're not going to judge you at all. There's nothing you could say to us that we would judge you or be shocked about. Angela and I are similar in the fact that we've been through a lot of crazy ass trauma. And so there's nothing you could tell us that we would not, you know what I mean? Like we would judge you, and we're not in that capacity anyway. 2, we're not here to fix you. When somebody is a safe person, they're holding space for you. And when they hold space for you, it's giving you the room to feel safe, to let yourself go completely. And what that means is to allow yourself to surrender into the emotion and to allow yourself to just completely let go and just feel it. And you will, when you work with her or you work with me, or there's other mentors out there that are that way as well, you will feel that sense of safety where you can let go completely and feel it. Because if you heal in safe relationships, we are always going to attract where we are. So again, it's not that you need somebody, but it is vital in trauma work, in my professional opinion, because I do more of the somatic therapy of trauma, to really have somebody that will hold that space for you that you can't hold for yourself yet, and just allow you to be safe to express whatever is coming out of you, and just to be able to share it into a void of love, pretty much is what it is. So that's what a safe relationship is. It's not someone who's going to give you advice that's unsolicited. It's not going to be somebody who is judgmental or doesn't agree with what you're saying. It's about having that space to literally purge, ego dump, inner child's tantrum, whatever it is, to have that safe space. And if you don't know that because this is one of the things I get from people is, I don't know, I didn't know I felt unsafe. Because you don't, it comes up as anxiety,
Right.
Shame, guilt, right? People pleasing. These are all trauma responses. I could list hundreds of trauma responses. These are trauma responses, and we don't realize that that is us not feeling safe. So from my perspective, what I always talk about is presence and awareness, getting super in touch with your body and what it's telling you. So do you do any of that in your work as well, Angela?
Yes, I do talk about connecting with yourself at that level. And again, it's because women usually, and not just women, but survivors, when it's happening, you usually disassociate from your body when trauma is happening. And you're so used to being dissociated when things happen, like any type of pain, you'll automatically disassociate and not even know that you're doing it.
Yep.
And so when women come to me, they're like, how do I connect with myself? How do I know that I need to connect with myself? How do I, touch my body and feel okay with my body after all of this stuff has happened that I haven't addressed? And we do talk about it. And and again, I'm going to go back to this. Journaling is one of the most important things that you can do when you are healing from trauma. And it's because it allows you to connect with yourself. It allows you to create clarity, and it allows you to create safe self-expression. And so you can pour everything out on the table, and that will really start allowing you to connect with yourself, to your intuition, the way your body feels, and just so on. So journaling is so powerful. So if you don't want to reach out to anybody yet because you feel uncomfortable, then go to a journal and just start pouring your heart out.
Tell them about your journal, because what she was talking about earlier about channeling, you can channel your ego. You can channel your inner child collective and pull the inner child forward that needs to be expressed. You can channel anything. And so you have the journal that we were talking about earlier. We tell people a little bit about it, because if you're not ready to talk to somebody yet, this is a great resource.
Yeah, yes, it is. And it's a journal that I wrote when I was, I don't know, I think I worked through it when I was pregnant, and I did all this healing. I downloaded the journal prompts and then worked through them myself. And a lot of it was all about coming into awareness of what happened, feeling comfortable about what happened. And I don't mean like comfortable, like, you condone what happened, but just comfortable that it's your trauma, that's what happened to you. And then you start to really kind of let go of it all in that journal. And in some of it, a lot of my, I don't want to say a lot, but some of my philosophies have changed since then. I was really about writing forgiveness letters and doing those things, because that's really what I practice. I practice writing forgiveness letters all the time, and I was doing it all the time and doing it all the time. And I started to realize that I'm really do better when I just accept it and move on, instead of trying to go back to that person and trying to forgive them. And not that forgiveness isn't necessary, but I started to realize that I wasn't necessarily forgiving that person in that state of where I was at.
Right.
I tried to force it rather than let it naturally happen. And so, but the forgiveness part is in there, encouraging.
But there's going to be people that are going to be in that space of what they need, and this is why our content, there's stuff courses, and there's stuff in the First Heal course that I no longer am a match to, but there are people who are a match to that. And so we evolve with our content, and our content evolves.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And it's so helpful. I recommend that anybody gets it. There's 22 journal prompts, I think, with space to write in each prompt. I also share my own personal journal entries, unedited. I think I've removed names, etc.
That's powerful, though. That's very powerful that you do that, because people relate to stories. They don't look, you guys, we know that there are millions of people in this world that have experienced some type of sexual trauma, even if it's just a boundary being crossed in a way that, someone touching your leg constantly or whatever. It doesn't matter the severity of it. If it's something that has caused you harm, it's trauma, because trauma is just unresolved energy. That's all it is. It's something that happened that was unresolved. And so it continues to come back over and over and over again until you resolve it. And so having something like that where you can help yourself, because you're also certified in NLP,
Mhm.
which I'm not certified in it, but I do use NLP, all of those things. But in a way, that's what you're doing when you're using journal prompts. Is these prompts are, you're reading a question as if someone is asking you that question. And it's when you do that, it opens up a response in your subconscious that pulls an answer out. So it's also about learning to trust that response that comes out, right? Because
Right.
sometimes we think we're crazy. And I'll tell you, I'm not ready to talk about my story yet. And I don't know if I'll ever make it public, but you know, these types of things are powerful because you're going to go through a phase where you think you're crazy,
Mhm.
that it's not real, that no one's going to believe you, that it's made up, or all of these things, right? And so you kind of have to take that time to have that space for yourself first. And it doesn't matter if anybody else believes you, honestly, because did you go through that where people didn't believe you?
Um, I don't know if, well, so I kind of did. When I told, and this is important that we talk about this, when you tell people you cannot have any expectations at all on their response at all, because people are very uncomfortable with this conversation. And so when I told my father, there was like no emotion at all. When I told my baby daddy, he was like, "Well, you better not project that onto me." And I was just like, "Well, that's nice of you, thank you."
Right.
And then, and then,
Thanks for your
and
compassion,
then when I
buddy.
told my mom, yeah, yeah. And then when I told my mom, she was, she was very open and emotional, and she had her own things with it that that she had to take care of. But when I went to, and I was in therapy at the time, and I wanted to, there was a program that I could get therapy for free, but I had to have some reports. I had to have some report of my sexual abuse that took place. So I was like, okay, well, if that's what I have to do, then that's what I'll do. And this is at the time where um, women were coming forward,
Oh, the Me
and
Too movement.
yes, and talking about things that had happened years and years and years ago, and people were so mad that
Yeah.
these women were coming forward years later, and you're trying to ruin their career and this and that. And I understand that. I totally and completely understand that perspective.
Yeah.
And so I was going into the police station, going to make this report on something that happened 27
Yeah.
years
I remember
before
that
that
day,
point.
actually, because we were talking that day.
It was the hardest thing I've ever had to do. And and the police, the gentleman that took the report, and I need everybody to understand this, their job is to not emotionally support me. Their
Right.
job is to get the facts, make the report, and do what they have to do. So they ask you specific questions to make sure that you are telling the truth. But in this situation that is so delicate, when they start questioning you, you start questioning yourself, right?
Yeah.
And because he would ask me, well, if you blacked out, how do you know that it happened? And I was just like, well, I guess I don't know. And at that time it was so new to even tell anybody about it. I didn't know how to be. It happened. You either believe me or you don't. Like,
Right.
I was just not in that place. And so, you do have those fears. Is someone going to believe me? Is this person going to believe me? Are they going to take the report? Do they believe me? And truthfully, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if that guy believed me or not. It's
Right.
completely irrelevant. However, there are anybody or some people that have gone through the trauma as a child and told somebody, and that person didn't believe them.
Which
So
re-traumatizes you, and
yes,
it
yes,
makes it's like a second trauma.
yes, and makes your whole, I mean, how do you ever come out at that point? And you just have to really learn how to get very comfortable with yourself and very accepting of the trauma that takes place. And you have to be tough enough in your own skin that no matter the response you're getting, you know the truth, and that's all that matters. And so when you get to that point, that's when I feel like people can start speaking up. I don't think it should be done prematurely because you just kind of tell everybody sometimes, and the truth is not everybody needs to hear your story. Not everybody is here to support your story. And so you want to remember that. You want to tell people the details of with select few people that you know that are going to hold space for you.
Yep, safe people. Because here's the thing, in the beginning, when we're in the pain and when we're going through the unveiling of these memories, right? Because your body, while you may not have a visual memory, your body records everything.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to be able, for me, I use emotional wormholes. So I use the emotion to create a wormhole to bring them back to that space. And you don't have to have a visual to be able to read what's happening in that into that space, right? So there's that aspect too. But just overall, you do not, when you're in that pain, you are wanting somebody to see your pain. And this is why people talk about it and why they're like, I need to tell, or I need to expose. We get angry. We're like, I'm in pain. Can you not see what's happened to me or what you did to me? You caused this pain. But here's the thing, what she was talking about with just going into the energy, right? Feeling it. It's literally feeling your pain, seeing your pain, and having compassion for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Having compassion for yourself. Because literally it does not, like she said, does not matter. Of course we want to be validated, but if you're not willing to validate yourself, if you're not willing to have compassion for yourself, if you're not willing to see your pain, nobody else will. They just won't. So what's the name of your book, your journal?
The Recovery Journal. Gosh, it's called the Recovery Journal. If you go to Amazon and search Angela Turpin, it will pop up. It's the Recovery Journal. And I think the little tagline is journal your way through recovery from childhood sexual abuse. I think that's the tagline on it.
Yeah, I was actually going to see if I had a link to it because I know her and I actually did a whole nother interview. It's on my YouTube channel somewhere.
I wonder if I still have it copied in here. Oh, I guess I can't write in that little private chat.
One of us will find it, and we
there
will.
It is.
Do you find it?
Yeah, but I just private chatted you because I don't know how to put it in. Do you see it there? Yeah.
I don't know. This is not, text stuff is not. Oh, here it is. I was like, I don't see anything. What are you talking about? Here it is. I found it. Okay. So here's the journal. There we go. Maybe there it is. That way, if anybody wants it, or, this, like I said, this is a good way to just kind of, especially if this is something that's happening. And I say this, and I'm sure there's going to be people that find this interview, but I know that in fact it's happening because I have had several people that I'm acquaintances with, or, used to be close friends with, who have personally reached out to me and are very aware that the reason why they're so triggered is because they finally have to address the elephant in the room, right? They have to finally open that door to the memories that they don't want. They've been avoiding, right? Because we'll go. I mean, I was a party girl and I did it to avoid trauma. I didn't want to feel anything. So I just numbed it out, and so we have to be willing to open that door and step in. So if you're not ready, it's okay. But these triggers, they're happening for a reason. And, I know that we recently had a Netflix trigger, so it's going to be like, it's going to look like they're purposely triggering you. And I was talking to Angela on the side about that. And I said, that's exactly what they're doing. They're purposely, unconsciously almost triggering us in every shape or form, not just in the sexual area, but in all of it, So if you're triggered by it, you need to look at yourself in the mirror. And this is how we heal the world, you guys. When we're triggered by something that's happening in the world, whether it's our president, our governors, pedophiles, corporate America, whatever, celebrities, whatever they're doing, it's you looking in the mirror and saying, they just pushed a button inside of me. So what is this? What really bothers me about this? Right. And you may not know yet, and it'll start to unveil itself. Right. An error occurred. It didn't let me post the link. So I will put the chat And afterwards, if I have to, I'll put it in there because I want people to have the link. I want people to be able to easily access this and not go, oh, I'll go look for it. You know,
Right.
I want them to have that. So I'm going to put up a banner of your website. Can you tell people ways of which they can hang out with you, get to know your energy, things like that?
Sure. So you can always go to my website. You can go, I do have a Facebook page. It's As Free As You See is my business page. And I do have a Facebook group, which is called the See Community, and See is SEE. And you can just type that in, search it. I'm also on Instagram. I'm not as active on Instagram as I used to be. And it's because I was hiding because I knew people on Facebook. And so I was trying to hide in Instagram.
We go through
and
that
now,
phase.
so now I'm on Facebook and I'm feeling like I'm not hiding. So I'm thinking actually I'm going to start to do both. But also I have a YouTube channel and I don't even know what the link is on the YouTube channel, but you can basically find me anywhere and you can always reach out to me, personal message. I understand that, you know, commenting or getting involved can be very hard, and I respect that. So you can always find me and message me. But yeah,
that's
I'm
a
pretty much
safety thing.
everywhere.
That's a
Yes.
safety thing. People seeing you talk to someone who's known for certain things. And so that's why discretion is so important, working with somebody who is got your, because when we talk about trust, that means that the person that you're communicating with has your best interest, is taking your best interest into consideration in the decisions that they are making. And so it's very important for you to find somebody when working with any kind of trauma that is going to take your best interest into heart, to go at your pace, to allow you that space, to be that loving guide for you, and to help you any way they can. So she nailed it. It's sometimes it's even commenting that can be an unsafe event.
Right. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely.
So any last words that you would want to give people who might consider working with me?
Yes, absolutely. So I can't express the mirror that Johanna is for people, and not a mirror in a hardcore type of way, but in a soft, gentle, motherly, unconditional love type of way, that no matter what it is that you're going through, I'm here for you. I will always be here for you. I have this space for you, and we are going to get through whatever you have going on together. Not only are you like that, but you're very much straightforward, right? We're not going to beat around the bush. You need to know this, and you need to know this because this is what they're sending me, and this is what you need to know, which I really appreciate, because I don't like we're going to beat around the bush till we get to the point.
What a waste of energy.
I'm just like, what does that mean?
Let's just get to the point here, people.
Yes, I've got things I got to do. So you're very direct, but you're very loving. And without ever, if I hadn't come into contact with you, you know, however long ago that really was, I'm not sure that I would be in this place. And so I'm very grateful that we came in contact. I'm very grateful that you told me that I wasn't having evil dreams, that it was an identity crisis. And so I'm very grateful that I started working with you. And if someone is really looking to heal, to move forward, to even step into their spirituality, become awake, you are like the go-to person. I send anybody that is like, I'm having these spiritual things, this spiritual awakening. I was like, I know somebody, go talk to her. And that's where I send everybody to you that I know, because your healing work and your energy work is just amazing. and the unity experience. Like if you're at a certain level and you're awake, if you're ready and committed, the unity experience is like it. That is the one. So so I know that I'm sure some people are in your self mastery academy,
Yeah, and Unity's in there.
Yeah, so do the work, and when you feel called to go to Unity, it will be very hard, but it will be very worth it, and you will just see massive shifts that are just sometimes I feel like they're unbelievable, but just the work that you put out there is definitely needed for people out in the world right now.
And you do the work, because I mean, anytime
Yeah.
I've ever, even over Messenger, where I've given you like a tidbit, you take that tidbit and you run with it and you like go deep into it, and you remind me of me, because we just transcend and move through shit so fast. But anybody can do that. It's just it's a level of dedication that you have for making space inside of yourself. So yeah, you can get Unity in Self Mastery Academy. That's the cool thing about me, is you can literally go from the beginning of your journey to however end of your journey you want to call that. That's the difference between me and a lot of other teachers, is I'm not here for one phase. I literally can do all of them. And I had to take that journey for myself, which was a little messy, right? But it worked. But with Angela, you guys, she's certified in NLP, timeline therapy. What else?
Hypnotherapy. That's all the certs I have. However, the experience of working through your own sexual trauma,
she has her own self-mastery
certificate is
enough.
It is enough. And just the experience with that alone is enough to help somebody else. And we all know that and see that happening every day.
Yep. So if you've had any type of trauma work and you feel called to work with Angela, or you have had a sexual trauma in any way, shape, or form, get to know her. Get into her Facebook group. Follow her on Facebook and Instagram. All her links are in. If you're on YouTube, it's in the description below. If you're on Facebook, it's up above. All her links are there, including her website. She's an awesome blogger, and she is really good with the journal prompts. And even if, like me, I don't really journal anymore, but I love prompts to speak out my stuff. So however which way you need them, the prompts are very helpful and very important. So I just want to tell everybody, thank you for joining us today. It looks like my internet's glitching out. So perfect timing. Thank you, Angela, for joining and being here. And you guys, please support this woman. If you have someone you know that needs someone like that, please direct them to this video or direct them to Angela. She is going to be the go-to person. You will see her on a stage soon. It will happen. And I just love you so much, and your bravery and your courage and your dedication is just a beautiful thing. And I'm so grateful that we got to work together.
Me too. And thank you so much for having me on here and being here for me. I'm just so grateful, and I have so much love for you.
Yay. Thank you. I love you too. All right, you guys, we'll be back. I'll be back on Thursday with another interview. Until then, bye.